General Kregg is one of the most feared Viltrumite warriors in the galaxy. He is the right-hand man of Grand Regent Thragg. He is very powerful. He likes women a lot. Did you guys like my impression of basically 99% of all of the new Invincible content creators out there? Anyway, General Kregg continues the legacy of Invincible characters who have names pronounced completely differently than I assumed they were when reading the comic about 50 times. So come on, man, it's Kregg, not Krieg. But anyway, Kregg of the Cosmos is a deadly general serving as the right-hand man to the most fabulous Viltrumite in the galaxy, Thragg. Kregg is an incredibly powerful Viltrumite warrior who, much like some of the others, doesn't get the respect put on his name that he deserves. But you know who will put some respect on his name? As always, keep in mind that this video is not going to cover every single issue, every panel, or conversation that Kregg is in, but it will cover the vast majority of the most important elements of his comic history. Additionally, in order for the story to make the most sense, I may not necessarily cover every event as it occurred in the comics chronologically, but rather in a way that presents itself most logically. With that being said, here's the complete comic history of General Kregg. General Kregg's first appearance was in Invincible issue 29, written by Robert Kirkman and drawn by Ryan Ottley. Mark first encounters Kregg on the planet Thraxa. He comes to the planet unknowingly at the request of his father to help Nolan fight off a pending invasion of Viltrumites. Multiple Viltrumites, including General Kregg, arrive on the planet looking to find Nolan, having been made aware that he had abandoned his post as the ambassador / let's be real, conquering agent of the Viltrum Empire to Earth. Nolan becomes emotional after seeing a massive amount of Thraxan corpses, the alien species he's come to protect and breed with, murdered at the hands of the Viltrumites. Nolan becomes enraged at their deaths. Keep in mind that this is post-Earth Nolan, where, much like the Grinch, his heart has grown 3 sizes larger. After battling the Viltrumites on this planet, Nolan has his back broken by Lucan and Mark is beaten unconscious. When Mark wakes up, he's in Viltrumite healing equipment and his father is on a stretcher being taken away, and we now come face to face with General Kregg for the first time. Kregg states that based on the battle abilities Mark demonstrated in his fight with Lucan and 2 unnamed Viltrumites, Mark is being promoted to the ambassador of the Viltrum Empire for the planet Earth. Kregg decrees that Mark is to take his father's place and he has 100 years to prepare Earth for Viltrumite rule. That seems fair. 100 years is, it's a while. Mark is left on the planet to heal and the Viltrumites depart. They never explain where Kregg's laser eye comes from, but I like to think that he just constantly cosplays as Kano from Mortal Kombat. I do have a pretty solid theory about this, so remember to remind me later in the video and I'll tell you all about it. In issue 45, we see Kregg again. Kregg follows through on his promise of keeping better tabs on the planet by sending everyone's least favorite bad Viltrumite, Anissa, to check in on Mark. Anissa reports back to Kregg, and it's revealed that they are actively attempting to recruit Mark into the Viltrum Empire. At this same time, Nolan is imprisoned within the same Viltrumite battleship. Kregg informs him that he is to be executed now that he's been returned to full health following his defeat on Thraxa. It's a Viltrumite custom that you cannot be executed if you're injured, and Nolan is essentially fully healed. Obviously, that doesn't happen. See Alan's video for more info on that. We next see Kregg in issue 66, where Nolan admits that following the decimation of the Viltrum Empire at the hands of Thetis and the Scourge virus, there are less than 50 pureblood Viltrumites remaining. Remember how earlier I mentioned that we never find out how Kregg lost his eye and you were supposed to remind me but you didn't? Well, in this one panel, I think that this is Kregg and I think that his eyeball is bleeding out of his skull. In fact, I'm like 99% sure he lost his eyeball to the Scourge virus. In fact, put it into a fandom account somewhere so that an AI-generated voice can make a video about it and get credit for something I cataloged first. During the Viltrumite War and following it is when we really start to get some Kregg up in here. Nearing the end of the Viltrumite War, Kregg is part of the Viltrumite forces dispatched by Grand Regent Thragg to attack the Coalition of Worlds. Kregg directly battles Thetis, the leader of the Coalition, the Great Betrayer, and a Viltrumite himself. Unfortunately for Kregg, he comes up against the coolest dude in the galaxy, Alan. At this point, Alan is one of the strongest beings in the universe. Kregg and Alan battle as Mark, Nolan, and Oliver arrive as reinforcements. I just told this story in Oliver's video, so check that out if you want more info, but the long and short here is that the forces of the Coalition force the remaining Viltrumites into a retreat back to the planet Viltrum. This leads the team of Mark, Nolan, Oliver, Battle Beast, Space Bracer, Alan, and Tech Jacket to head to the planet Viltrum to bring the final fight to the Viltrumites on their own turf. Kregg engages the group with multiple other Viltrumites, and the battle is fairly brutal, with Oliver nearly dying in the fight. However, part of the way through the fight, the heroes break away and destroy the planet Viltrum. What follows is an insanely brutal beatdown by Thragg on basically everybody in attendance. He's got equal opportunity hands. Thragg beats Mark and Nolan nearly to death, but spares their lives, stating that their species needs all the Viltrumites they can get if they're going to survive. Kregg actually disagrees with Thragg and attempts to kill them at their weakest, but is stopped by Thragg and put back in his place. Thragg allows Mark and Nolan to survive and rejoin the coalition to heal up. Thragg takes the remaining Viltrumites to Earth, much to Nolan and Mark's shock. They believe that he's gonna basically kill everybody on Earth in retaliation for the destruction of planet Viltrum. What transpires next is far more erotic. When Mark and Nolan arrive on Earth, they're greeted by Thragg, Check the Drip, who explains that there are now only 37 Viltrumites left. Seeing how powerful Oliver had become when Nolan bred with a Thraxan woman, Thragg plans to essentially bang his way out of this scenario. You heard it here, folks, the Viltrumites came to Earth to get some. We are the hottest species in the universe, let's face it. Thragg tells Mark that the remaining Viltrumites will live on Earth and rebuild their numbers by repopulating with hybrid human Viltrumites. Kregg is clearly fitting in well, already rocking an eye patch, tank top, and chuffing back a fat dart. And there, the Viltrumites live for a period of time. Much later in the series, we see Kregg spotted during the invasion of Earth by Monax, a Flaxan with a grudge against Robot. Check out this video if you want more on that. But Kregg injects himself into the conflict in order to save a woman in London. Because he helped, Thragg interrogates Kregg, who asked that the Viltrumites do not interfere with any of Earth's conflicts or politics. They're just there to bang people. Kregg admits that he had saved a woman who was actually impregnated with his child, and we also learn that Kregg had 11 other women all over the world impregnated with his kids, and shockingly, he actually loves all of them. Earth was slowly changing all of the Viltrumites living on it, similar to how it changed Nolan. They all begin to care for their Earthling mates, children, and the affairs of the planet. Side note, in the back of issue 96, Kirkman himself says that Kregg is a master of two things: interstellar warfare and getting busy. After Mark becomes infected with the Scourge virus, Thragg has his DNA analyzed and learns that Nolan and Mark are rightful heirs to the throne of the Viltrum Empire, descending from the previous leader, Argyle, who Thetis killed hundreds of years ago. Thragg and Nolan battle, with Thragg nearly killing him before the remaining Viltrumites step in and restrain him. The Loyalty Squad. Thragg is beaten, imprisoned, and the remaining Viltrumites pledge their loyalty to the rightful leader, Nolan. Nolan, now as Emperor, peep the drip, encourages the remaining Viltrumites to embrace the emotions and lives they have lived on Earth, and they embrace him for that. Ultimately, Nolan, instead of killing Thragg, exiles him. Dumb move. Dumb, so dumb, you're dumb. We next see Kregg after Robot begins his takeover of Earth. It's always something in this series, right? Nolan and the remaining Viltrumites broker a peace with Robot, who knows they could defeat him if they wanted, but not without losing many of the remaining Viltrumite lives. Nolan puts his people first. Kregg isn't seen again until issue 137, which is the actual beginning of the final battle with Thragg. Thragg spent some time on Thraxa doing absolutely nothing except getting it on with bug women. Thragg spends a few months building a new force of half-breed children similar to Oliver, half Viltrumite and half Thraxan, and he plans to use them to oppose the Coalition, Mark, Nolan, and all of the Viltrumites who abandon him, using a massive army of half-breed children. When Nolan calls Kregg to defend Earth, he's busy introducing all of his baby mamas to each other before bailing, and he's like, yeah, actually I gotta go, and then he flies into outer space and leaves them all together. It's amazing. He's my favorite character. I'm sorry, he's just too funny. The other Viltrumites have all changed as well and become happy living on Earth with their mates. While the Viltrumites are in space battling Thragg, Robot systematically tracks down all their kids and kidnaps them to use as leverage later. The Viltrumites battle Thragg and his new army, and many people die, including Nolan. Mark is ultimately able to defeat Thragg with the help of the Viltrumites, Robot, Alan, and I guess a special shout out to the sun. Gotta be my favorite star. Following Nolan's death, Robot attempts to kill Mark due to his fear of Mark being made the new emperor of the Viltrum Empire and rallying everybody behind him to overthrow Robot's rule of Earth. In the final battle with Robot, Kregg initially opposes Mark out of fear that Robot will kill his children if he doesn't. Mark asks Kregg to put on a show and pretend that he's disobeying Mark, and Kregg obeys, continuing to half-heartedly fight for Robot. Mark is able to successfully pinpoint which drone Robot is using and fly it far enough away to Earth that it's just Mark and him alone. Mark gives him the old hand through the stomach and ends the Robot conflict once and for all. Mark is then crowned Emperor of the Viltrum Empire, peep the drip, and Kregg pledges his loyalty to Mark. As a child, Mark was always told that the Viltrumites were a benevolent race of beings who helped the galaxy. Slowly but surely, Mark turns that into a reality. Kregg then lives the remainder of his days doing the thing that Nolan and Mark always envisioned the Viltrumites doing in the first place, bringing peace to the galaxy. Kregg is also, presumably due to his extreme loyalty, a pretty good father to his children. Ultimately, Kregg turned out to be a good dude. His time on Earth changed him, and he presumably lives for hundreds, if not thousands, of more years. And that is about it for this video on General Kregg, a loyal Viltrumite soldier with quite the character arc and an unyielding thirst for booty. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot, and if you did, feel free to like and subscribe and do all that other crap that YouTubers ask you to do. This has been Nick with Key Issues. Thank you for watching, and remember the motto, General Kregg over everything.